Hello, everyone. Good morning. Well, it is morning, my time anyway, wherever you're watching from. Happy Wednesday. This was more of an impromptu live right here, but I wanted to discuss a couple things that have been on my mind. And, well, first of all, welcome, everyone. I do live sometimes, but I thought, why not just do an impromptu? So there have been a lot of videos going around on the internet. And probably just because I have it in the description, I was thinking about, should I put the name in the description? But in the title of this video, there is a name in the title of this video. And it's about this vocal coach. Of course, maybe you have seen this already. I didn't even know about this, but people told me, have you heard? And I'm like, what? And I looked it up. Yes, of course, I am familiar with other vocal coaches on YouTube, and I do sometimes watch their videos because, sometimes it's interesting, it's informational, and I just like to see other angles. My take on it is that, I have always learned a lot from a lot of different people. I always learn from my students, as a matter of fact, just teaching my students and seeing what works for some other singers. I always have my own perspective, of course. We always come from a different place, maybe from a different background of how did we get here in our singing journey? So for me, it was always this scenario of I was always a pretty good singer. I was never in this place of I'm bad and I suck. I was actually never really there. So it was actually hard for me to learn how to teach someone, for example, vibrato, because it's not anything I ever learned. I just did it. And so I was it's like your native language. If you just do it, it's natural. And I think there are a lot of singers out there who are just natural talents, which never means we're perfect. And this is where I'm getting on this topic now. As a vocal coach on YouTube, of course, anyone on YouTube can just make tutorials. And I remember the first few tutorials I ever made, I had such imposter syndrome. I was like, do people think I suck? Is it all wrong? Although I had been teaching for years already. And I have a Bachelor of Music. I have a Master of Music in vocal performance and opera performance. I have sung professionally for I had sung for years. But even then, I had imposter syndrome. I think it's quite normal when you put yourself out there. The internet is a very vulnerable place. So I have always two sides. So I always try to kind of put myself in someone else's shoes. Now, what I think is always very important to me is honesty and transparency. And this is, I think, where everyone is freaking out about this specific vocal coach. Ken Tamplin. I followed, not followed, but I don't even know if I'm subscribed or not, but it's I watch a lot of his videos and I enjoy very much the videos where he sings or his students, or I don't even know who they all are, but I was wondering always okay, who are these amazing singers? He has a bunch of women and they sing and it's really amazing. It's awesome. So here's where I stand. I enjoyed that. I didn't care whether it was in the studio. It was apparent that all of those were always recorded in the studio, which it's a very common practice to record first and then you're going to make the video because the sound is better and all the setup, because you probably want to be in a dead space where there's not a lot, in a well sound insulated place. This is very common practice. The problem is created when you come on camera and you claim this is 100% live. There's no editing and this is just raw and real. And then it turns out that is not the truth. This is the problem. The problem is never, someone used Autotune, which is such common practice nowadays. It's so common practice. That doesn't mean someone who's using it can't sing. As a matter of fact, you can only use Autotune if you are a pretty good singer intonation-wise. If you're too far off, the Autotune is just going to make it worse. It's going to snap everything to the nearest half step. That doesn't really work if you're way off, because then everything's going to be really wrong. So whether you're using Autotune or, we want to use a compressor, we want to post-production, put some nice reverb on. Yes, you can do this all live, but most of the time, we want to do maybe a couple of spots where it wasn't as perfect as we like. And then, of course, we perfect that. Oh, I can't speak. And then I'm going to answer your question. I'm going to answer your question in just a minute here. So this is okay. And we all expect it. What is not okay is when you deliberately say one thing and then you're lying about it. That's not okay. So the issue about vocal coaches, for me personally, I'm always interested in seeing like, how does that person sing? So yes, for me personally, it would be important to know that the person teaching can actually do it. So, I'm kind of a bit on a search now in my classical voice because I have a background as an opera singer, and I know a lot of people. Oh, it's a whole other topic, about like what people's opinions. I'm now in the process of like experimenting with my, wanting to expand the top range toward my whistle tone more. I never really did a lot of it. I always did like arias that went up to like an E6, but I want to go beyond. I want to get that F. I'm not necessarily, maybe I want to sing the Queen of the Night aria, which requires the F, but it's not my Fach. But here's the thing. I share that process and I share how I'm learning. And if I wanted to look for a teacher to teach me this, I would want to look for someone who can demonstrate it and who can actually do it really well, who has that experience. Yes, so there is this, it's apparent that a lot of vocal coaches, they would want to show that this is me singing so you can trust me. I know how to do it. I believe that Ken Tamplin, because he always said something along the lines of like, if I can't show you how to do it, it cannot be done. So basically he's saying, well, if anyone can do it on the planet, then I can show you how to do it, which is, I would never claim that. So basically, if I'm going to ask him to teach me the doll aria, which I just performed last weekend, is he going to be able to show me how? No, he probably means in his niche, singing maybe rock classics or something like that. Probably he could teach a lot there. And you know what? Here's the thing. There are a lot of great vocal teachers out there who might be good singers, but not like extremely excellent, but they're amazing teachers. I've seen this. So I don't think there's a need to try to pretend to be something you're not. And that's where I also have a problem, is when someone comes across as like, oh, I know everything. You know what? I don't claim to know everything. And I've actually put some thought into this in the past few months of the tone that I'm teaching with. It's like, I don't want to come across as, well, I know it all, but it's really, this is my experience. This is what I've seen work over and over again. This is like what I have done. And like, this is how I worked through this. Having said that, I never came from the scenario of like, I really suck as a singer. So I don't know some of those struggles that some may have, but I've taught enough students who had those struggles that I do know now, like, okay, this is my experience. This is what has worked for most of my students. But the internet is exploding right now. And on the one hand, the internet is mean. There are a lot of people with a lot of opinions that know a lot, seem to know a lot, or want to know, or claim to know a lot. But on the other hand, eventually the truth always comes out. So there's this video now about him buying subscribers, or claiming that he might have bought a lot of subscribers, which I don't understand why someone would do it, because why? If you buy subscribers, this is not anyone who's going to contribute to the growth of your business. Neither are those people ever going to want vocal lessons with you, nor are they actually going to faithfully and consistently view your videos. Although it is quite normal to have a lot of in this niche here, I see this a lot. Some of my colleagues here on YouTube, we have like hundreds of thousands of subscribers. And then when we do reaction videos, a lot of people come because all the fans of those singers that we react to come and like, yay, they want to cheer on their favorite singers. But then when you make a video about like, very deep technique, it doesn't get a lot of views. It's because it's not the broad topic. Like if you just make a video about like how to sing high, like everyone wants to watch that. But if you make a video about, I don't know, let's say correct vowel placement and how the vowels evolve throughout your range and how you kind of adjust. If you have a title like that, not a lot of people will click it because it's not this sensational, like, I'm going to teach you how to sing high in 5 minutes, which that's baloney anyway. But that's not baloney. If you could do one small thing and if you can change that in 5 minutes, you could make it quite a change if you do it right. But that claim that, well, I basically know how to do it all and I'm the only one who could teach you, that's already suspicious to me. And yeah, I just don't understand why. So my stance is I don't like when a lot of people just hate on other people. But at the same time, I actually also hate when people lie. I hate being lied to. I think everyone hates being lied to and deceived. Because the truth is, and that's what I try to teach my kids all the time, is like, I would rather you do something really horrible and tell me the truth than you hide it or tell me a lie about it. That to me is much worse because we all make mistakes. We all aren't perfect. We all have flaws. And even as a vocal coach, no one expects a vocal coach to be perfection, absolute perfection. No one is, not even your favorite singers. I'm telling you, if you were to sit in their practice sessions, you would hear that not everything always works out when you practice. That's when you experiment. This is just the business of music. This is the business of singing. And I've been in it long enough in opera, in musical theater, in singing with bands and all these different scenarios that I know that not everyone's perfect and you don't have to be. So Ken, if you're watching this, if you're just vulnerable and I would just at this point, if I were you, I would just be like, yes, this was not what I claimed it was. I want to just be honest now and admit that I have flaws. And even it's normal, maybe when we get older, maybe the voice isn't like it was 20 years ago, but that's okay. That's what everyone wants. Everyone wants someone real and authentic. And I think, especially as a vocal coach, I think it's not so much about showing perfection. It's about how do we work through those flaws and what's the process I go through when something is not working, which it is hard when you're on video and you're talking and then you're demonstrating and then you're talking and then you're demonstrating. That's not as easy as just singing yourself. If I'm just by myself and singing, I do different things because when you talk and you always interrupt your singing by talking a lot, that's different. So that's my take on it. I would encourage everyone on the internet to be honest and to be real, because everyone who's watching is a real person. Everyone who's watching this video right now is a real person with a real life and real feelings and real problems. And no one expects me to not be real with real problems and real issues and real ambitions and dreams and hopes. Like, this is me. I have other YouTube channels and someone just today commented, oh, I found you through your other YouTube channel and like, oh, it's nice. You always come across like, oh, you have it all together and stuff. And it's nice to see that there is a chaos sometimes. Yes, with my twins, you see me on camera here. Right now, they are with a babysitter. So I come across right now. Everything's together, everything's organized. But you know what? The truth is, after I get out of this office today, when my babysitter leaves, it's quite messy. It's chaos sometimes. And this is life. And not everything is perfect. And you know what? Last Saturday, I had a big concert. I did really well on the doll song. I sang, Les oiseaux dans la charmille. But my Let It Go, the drummer got messed up, the bass player got messed up, and I got messed up. I scrambled the words. I have performed that song so many times. So, I couldn't hear myself on stage, and something was messing with my brain. And then I switched the words, and I made a couple of mistakes. So it wasn't absolute perfection. My voice still worked fine and all, but this is life. And you know what? I'm going to share it too, because this is just what happens. I think actually, number one, it's funny afterwards. I mean, I was like, right afterwards, I'm like, dang it. I sang that so many times. I was very disappointed at myself. But then I'm thinking, well, it could serve as, number one, a lesson for me. What do we learn? How can I not let this happen again? And I'm human. So it's like being okay with it. It's like, okay, I made a mistake. A lot of artists, a lot of performers have made mistakes. And that's all I'm going to say about it. We are all human, and we should allow everyone to be human, and we should never lie to anyone. We should always be real, and that's okay. It's okay. It's all okay. It's not okay to deliberately lie. That's not cool. I don't like it. Okay, so what else was the title of this? I gave this, like, now I can't see it anymore. So as a vocal coach, I don't think you need a degree. I don't think you need any credentials. I think there are lots of people in the world who they are amazing at teaching something. They might know a lot about it, but maybe they're not the greatest at doing it. I think music is one of those things. I mean, I think when you sing, you can't sing everything. Like, I can teach male students, and I've had my male students tell me, like, I didn't know if you could teach me because you're a woman, because clearly I can only demonstrate with my voice. I don't have a bass voice, but I can demonstrate a lot of principles, but I cannot sing that low pitch. I don't know. My take on it is, if I were actually to learn whistle tone, I would probably want someone who can do it. But looking back, my teacher, she wasn't a high soprano. She was more of a lyric, like heavier soprano. But she explained a lot to me about things that she didn't actually demonstrate, but she explained it to me so well that it helped me so much, and I could then do it. She talked to me about the whistle tone and whistle register, and what she taught me was actually really helpful, of being lighter, of having less space when you get way up there. So that was helpful. Not necessarily she had to demonstrate it, but then again, if I wanted to be more advanced, I would probably eventually want someone who can actually do it. Oh, I wanted to talk a little bit about Autotune. Okay. And then I'm going to also talk about my opera class that's coming up. So stay tuned. After I get off the live, I'm going to put some timestamps on the bottom here. So if you're watching, the replay, you can go to the timestamps. Autotune. This is a big issue. When I do my reaction videos, I mean, like, if you watch channels such as Wings of Pegasus, which that's, I think, what started the whole Ken Tamplin thing, I actually watch his channel frequently because he analyzes vocals, and it is so it is very common for Autotune to be used. It's very common. Even singers who do not need it. And there's this perception that if I'm going to comment on if I'm going to react to an amazing artist, such as Dimash Kudaibergen, I'm not going to argue. He's an amazing artist. And I've never said anything different. I never said he's not good. Never did I critique anything in a way that I said like this is negative or I know it better, ever. But yes, there was auto-tune going on, which does not mean he cannot sing on pitch. Autotune is a very common thing. It creates a very specific sound. We are so accustomed to hearing this. It's used in the studio all the time. And a lot of young singers here on YouTube who do like cover songs, pretty much all of them use autotune. I personally don't like it because besides adjusting and snapping the pitch to the center of the nearest pitch that you're close to, besides that, it also flattens your formants. It has no life anymore. I think it kills your tone and it kills the timbre, the depth of it. It just kills those overtones. It's almost like it's also flattening out the overtones, which we work so hard to actually create and to sing into the mass to where it has so much ring. And then the autotune, I think it just kills it all. But autotune is so common. It is so often used. And so it doesn't mean the person cannot sing. I want everyone to understand that. You can only use autotune if the person is actually a good singer. If you're way off pitch, it's going to sound much worse with autotune. Only when you are very, very well on pitch does it actually work. But here's what it does. Instead of having tiny deviations, which are amazing, which are musical, which actually are essential for an amazing performance, for that depth, instead of having these variations and deviations from the centeredness of the pitch, autotune snaps it. And that only works, it snaps it to the nearest half tone. Whatever scale you're singing in, it's gonna just adjust. So if I'm gonna sing, da, da, so those are two pitches that are neighboring, it's a half tone, a half step, up or down. Sorry, I'm gonna close this now. So the sun comes out here. So it doesn't work if I'm not going to sing da, 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 da. If I sing da, if I sing right in between, if I'm quite off, then it's going to be hard for the software to determine which one was actually in the sheet music. Because it's not always very, the system, like where should it be? It's not always, we do sometimes have blue notes that are not part of an actual scale because they're like, But autotune is very common. I hope that this is going to stop eventually because I don't like it. And it's another lie. It's another lie. Really, autotune is a lie because it's telling you that this person who's singing is so dead center in the pitch, which it's not true. Listen to old recordings where autotune didn't exist. Listen to the Beatles. Listen to like Michael Jackson, Billy Joel. There's sometimes a sharp note there, but it's a good thing. It doesn't bother anyone because it is not off pitch. Yes, you could have a slightly sharp note or a slightly flat note if you put it in the system, like computer analyzed, but no one would ever notice that and perceive it as a sharp or flat note. And that is the problem. That, any string player knows this, that not like when you sing a scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, the leading tone, the ti, do, it resolves into the next, the root, the tonic. It's okay for the T to be slightly high. It needs to be close to the leading tone. The leading tone needs to be close to the one it resolves to, the upper one. And that's, every string player knows that. But autotune would kill stuff like that. Lastly, I wanted to tell you about my upcoming opera class. A lot of people here, because of course I have this channel, which is my main channel, and I have started another channel where I now do all things dedicated just to opera and classical singing. But because I know not everyone who is into classical singing and opera singing follows me there, I wanted to mention that I do have that. I am not really putting a lot on this channel anymore about classical singing. I might occasionally, but everything that is really going deep is going to be on the other channel. It's Freya Casey Opera and Classical Singing. I forgot to put the link right here in the description. I'm going to do it after I get off live. Because a lot of people always ask me about, can I work with you? Do you teach one-on-one? And I don't have a lot of capacity for that. But I do this like a couple times a year. I teach, well, I've done it 3 times this year because a lot of people ask me about it. The next session of my 1 month of opera class starts on November 5th. And I only have limited spaces available because I'm going to give everyone one-on-one feedback. But we're not going to make appointments, and we're not going to meet on Zoom, but you're going to have a video messenger app. It's the Marco Polo app. I've been using this for years for my Vocal Mastery Lab students, which this works in the same way. And you are going to send me, if you're going to participate in this class, you're going to send me video messages. That doesn't mean we're going to actually meet live, but you're going to send me your video messages of yourself singing, and then I will respond. So I have my office hours, and I have specific times. Like, I'm in Germany, and I know not everyone is. Some people are in the States. I've had students from Australia or Asia or Africa, all over the world. So because of the time zone issue, scheduling times is a little difficult, and that I could not do with many different people. But this is not a group coaching program. It is a program where I actually, for an entire month, give you one-on-one feedback. So you will send me a video, which that means also you can first practice, and you don't have to be put on the spot. You then just hit the button, which sends me, as you're recording, it already sends me the message. If I'm there as you're recording, I'm going to see it live. And then I'm going to send you my feedback video back as soon as I watch it, as soon as I can give you the feedback. You can also save all those videos so for future reference. So all the things I said, all the things I showed, all like the exercises, you can save it. This is going to be for an entire month. You're also going to have access to my How to Sing Opera course, where I have a lot of resources collected, which most of them are not on YouTube. We will talk about breathing. We will talk about support. We will talk about compression. We will talk about how to sing a nicer tone, how to be more resonant, the vowel placement, also how to phrase, how to sing through a phrase in a very connected way, legato lines. Depending on your voice type, I can help you find what is an appropriate piece for you, what is appropriate repertoire. So I personally believe that classical singing technique can benefit every singer. I don't think that it only benefits people who actually want to sing classical. I think I can always hear the difference whenever I watched a musical theater show, like in the theater, I could always pick out who actually had classical training and who did not. Because there are those musical theater schools where, you have a lot of dancing going on. The focus is not just on singing, it's dancing, acting, and singing. But you can definitely tell those who didn't have their focus on the singing, and then you can tell who has had classical training. There's something, I'm not going to say that they're not as good if they didn't have classical training, but I always hear that accuracy, like the singing more dynamics and like a very soft high note. It just has more ease, and there's more accuracy, even in the counting, in the phrasing, and just the details. I always hear that there are so many more accurate details when the person is classically trained. So I personally believe that even if you sing pop or rock, some classical training can definitely benefit you. Now, if you're a woman, of course, in classical singing, we sing mostly in head voice. But I'm an example for someone, like, I can sing classically, but I also can switch back, and I can sing in my chest voice and belt and sing, higher chest voice because I have trained to go back and forth between the two styles, and I can sing different styles because I have learned what to do differently. You cannot approach pop singing the same way you approach classical singing, but I think that either style helps you sing in the other styles because you learn. It's almost like, when you dance, if you do ballet, it's like hard. It's very hard. If you're a ballet dancer already, it's not going to be as hard to start, say, jazz dance because your muscles are already trained and you are aware of the details and the intricacies and the, how to move. And so even though there may be another dance style, it's going to be much easier accessible to you. And I feel it's the same with singing. The more different styles you are aware of, how to work your voice differently, excuse me, how the placement differs slightly, it just helps. I just think it helps. So in my 1 month of opera class, it is a financial investment because I work one-on-one of $497. You get an entire month of coaching with me via the video messenger app. You're not going to be put on the spot. This is how it goes usually. We kind of play the ball back and forth. You send me your message, then I will send you my message. I'll give you something to work on, or like, do this, do this, do this. Then you can try it out. You can practice a bit. And when you feel like, okay, this is where I'm at right now, then you record yourself. I get the message and I got another snapshot of what's happening. And then I'll give you the next feedback. So it's kind of like, it's kind of like in a lesson, except you're not put on the spot for like 1 hour, but we're doing it over an entire month where not just once a week, but like on more days of the week, you can actually send me the messages and actually get feedback. And you can send me the message when you're in the middle of it. You don't have to be like, oh, in 3 days I have my lesson. Now this is the problem that's happening. Let me bring it up in the lesson. But you can hit record. The problem is happening right now. You can record it and send it to me so I can then see it as it happens. And then I can help you figure out what's happening and how to fix things. And again, like I said, I'm not perfect. And I'm not going to turn you into a professional Maria Callas kind of singer in a month. That's not what it's about. It's about really making progress of that level of awareness. I think one thing that a lot of my students tell me is that I have helped them become structured and productive and to actually fix a problem instead of singing through a piece over and over again without really in struggling still. We don't just sing through pieces. We actually dive deep. We might just even get to work on the first couple lines because we're going to go so deep, but everything that applies to the first couple of lines of the piece is going to apply to the rest of the piece. So that's how I go about it. Instead of singing through it, I'm just now, after singing the doll aria last weekend, I want to sing Je suis Titania from Mignon, the opera. It's cool. It's cool. Je suis Titania la blonde. Something like that. So I want to really work it. Any other comments? Okay, so let me read your comments. Which school of thought does the technique you use belong to? Oh, that is an awesome question because I don't even like to call anything like a method. You know what? Here's my method. It's the method of how a voice actually works. It's like, this is my method. I guess you could take some elements from speech level singing, which I think is very useful when you have that awareness of what do I already know how to do with my voice because I'm using it like in everyday life when I speak or make sounds, and then remember what that feels like and then apply that in my singing to make it easier to not get too tense. I also like the still method, and I also like Alexander technique is not just for singing, but I like elements of all of it. I like bel canto. It's the highest art. It's the details, the small the small, subtle things that matter so much in music. So I don't have one school of thought or one way. When I sing a piece that is bel canto style, if I'm singing a Donizetti or Bellini, those are the rules I'm trying to adhere to. When I sing, let's stay in the classical word. When I sing Mozart, I'm trying to be accurate and in that style of Mozart, applying everything I know about how to make it resonant, how to fill the space with sound, without darkening, without covering, being bright and open and forward. It's just pure vocal anatomy and logic and artistry and musical principles. So I have never subscribed to this is the truth and this, I have to make up a name of the method I'm using. I'm not using a method. It's I've never heard any of my voice teachers actually use this is the method I'm teaching. It's not a method. It's just how the voice works. Does that make sense? I don't like that. This is my method and then do this. The AA method and the whatever method. I don't know. There are tons of them out there. And I think every singing program out there has something that is very unique, probably, the approach. But there are many approaches you could take. You could take the approach of just doing an exercise every single day. I don't know if that's going to help, but it's an approach. My approach is that I always I think it's important to kind of know how the vocal mechanism works to understand what's actually happening. I think it helps because we can't actually physically see, but it helps to picture okay, the larynx can go down, it can also tilt, and then the vocal cords close. And when I have an openness in the back of my throat, that pharyngeal space is open, it kind of feels like maybe, I'm starting to yawn. So the knowledge of what's happening in the mechanism and how the diaphragm works, what it looks like, that technical thing, pairing that with the sensations we feel. Oh, it feels like the beginning of a yawn, or it's like stretching and yawning in the morning. That's a whistle tone. We go, oh, that is a whistle tone maybe. And then also musical principles, which isn't just reserved for musicians like pianists. As singers, we are also musicians, and that's extremely relevant. So we need, in my online singing school, those are the 3 pillars we really teach. It's the technical thing, the technical pillar, understanding the technical aspects. Then it's the musical, theory and understanding music and phrasing. Where do I emphasize? How do I dynamically develop something? And then also the mindset and performance. How do I deliver this now? How do I make it my own? How do I make it, what does that mean for my voice and my delivery? So it's all important. Is Italian technique? Well, I think in classical music, we go to bel canto because that's where the music world, it was the center of the music world at some point when, it's called bel canto because it comes out of Italy. Yes, because, you may notice in classical music, all the terms, it's all in Italian. Oh, forte, piano, ritardando, accelerando. It's all in Italian because this is, in French cuisine, everything's French because that was the capital of cooking, of very fancy cooking. And Italy was the capital of classical music. There was folk music back then. The common people who were not very, wealthy, they didn't really have access to this. It was more like the educated, royal, those kind of people. They had access to a Mozart opera. The common people couldn't go there. But it was all centered in Italy. And that's why everything's Italian singing technique when it comes to classical singing. Yes, a lot of it is Italian. Okay, I need to. Okay, let me read through some of the. Yes. It helps so much to know we all make mistakes. Yes, totally. Oh, Toshi, have you gone through the course? How to sing any song like a pro? That is my new course on Skillshare that I just published this week. It just was launched. And I don't have a link right now. I will post it. I will put it in the video description after I get off here live. It's a new course I have on the Skillshare platform. So Skillshare, it's kind of like Udemy. It has, I think it's very high quality, and they have a community aspect. You don't just buy one course. You pay your membership to Skillshare, and I have a link for a 1 month free trial. So you could technically just watch my course for free. But I like it. They have tons of other singing courses on there. And of course, I think how many, like more than 30,000 courses about different topics, not just singing and music, of course. They have some guitar courses on there, I think, maybe piano. So, but if you want to check it out, I will put the link here. It's on Skillshare, and I have that link for the 1 month free. And I also have a course, and we actually haven't, the sale for only $17 was supposed to end after Sunday. But because Sean, my assistant, she's traveling this week, we didn't fix the website yet. So you could technically still get on my website, masteryourvoice.tv, and get my mastering mixed voice course for just $17 instead of $47. It's supposed to go up to $47. We had the launch price for just $17, but you could still get it probably until later next week, because she's going to be gone this and next week. When should the larynx be a bit high, which register or technique? Well, the larynx position really determines a lot of the sound. So in classical singing, we want a lower larynx overall than we would want in musical theater, like modern musical theater or like rock singing, for example. So, if I had a chest voice tone with a lower larynx, it's like, yeah. A higher larynx would sound more like this, yeah. You hear the difference? It's just a different sound. So there's not a rule. It sounds a little more bright and pingy, and it has a bit more of that, adding more nasal quality, not nasal sound, if you have a higher larynx to make less space. But that entirely depends on the style you're singing. Whether I want, let's talk about Josh Groban has more of a classical technique. So it sounds more classical or semi-classical. It's not fully operatic because his larynx sits a bit lower than the average pop singer. Not it sits lower. He uses a lower position. It's not like his vocal tract is different. It's just he does it. He has a lower larynx, which creates then this more fuller tone. It's more these these kind of overtones versus na 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 na, which has a little higher larynx, and it just comes across. It's just different sound. It sounds brighter. It sounds more in the face. You can still sing in the mask both ways. Do we consider whistling as part singing style like Mariah Carey whistle? Whistle register is another register that you have on the top, and everyone could do it technically. I mean, like theoretically, males and female voices can all do it. It's when the vocal cords, they're closed, but it's like a flageolet tone on the guitar. When you're barely touching the string and at the same time you're plucking it, you create an overtone because not the entire string vibrates, but only a very, like the edges. It's a faster vibration then, but it's very subtle. And that's what whistle tone is. Now, there's no song that requires whistle tone. Well, in classical music, yes, sometimes, like Queen of the Night, the F, that would have to be whistle tone. But it's more in popular music, it's more like a show trick. It's a cool thing. It's not like you necessarily need it, but it sounds really impressive when someone does it. Yeah, so. Oh, Celine Dion. Oh, belter or mixer? Both. She definitely has to mix. Now she does have a really strong, high chest voice, but she definitely has to start mixing on the top to sing healthy, because you can't put that much weight on the thyroarytenoid muscles and still be healthy. You're not just, because otherwise it would sound like she's completely yelling, instead of near, far, fair, wherever you are. It's way heavy on the thyroarytenoids. It's yelled, it's heavy, it's too much pressure. So you have to start mixing, you have to start lightening up on that mechanism. Wherever you are, wherever you are. So that is definitely already mixed. And it's starting to lean toward the laryngeal tilt without actually tilting. She has super control over that tilt, and she also has a very high range in her chest voice. That in combination, and I go through that in my mixed voice course. You can still get it for $17 on my website. It's really important to not get too heavy and just yell, because you're going to kill your voice on the top. Belting means you're not just yelling. I have a video, belting without yelling. If you just yell, it's not healthy. It puts too much pressure against your vocal cords. You have to begin to mix. For females, probably anything that's above a D5, you have to start mixing. Otherwise, it's very unhealthy. In that song, Aren't They All Our Children? Yeah, but it doesn't matter which song she sings. She can go very high. Now, Kelly Clarkson, what she did early on in her career, she did a lot of too much pushing the chest voice high without mixing and lightening up a bit. It doesn't mean you're softer. Lightening doesn't mean you're soft. Lightening means on that mechanism. Nah, instead of, nah, just leaning against it, not support it. And then she has changed her technique since, which now means it works much better for her and it's much healthier. I love Kelly Clarkson. She's an amazing singer. And I think she recently was praised by Celine Dion. She sang My Heart Will Go On. And Celine actually commented, and she was blown away by the performance. I haven't watched it. I want to. I just saw it in my YouTube feed. And it's because I need to watch it, because Kelly Clarkson now, I'm assuming, and I haven't watched it yet, but probably now, because she is not as heavy on the top. She has better control and it's healthier, and she sounds more like Celine now. The master belter and mixer, both of it. You have to know both. Because belting high means you have to start mixing. Okay, a couple more questions and I have to get off here. What happens if your chest voice is a little too high for the song? You mean the song is too high for the chest voice? You mean the song is too low, or you mean the song is too high? You mean your chest voice doesn't go high enough? Is that what you mean? I'm assuming that's what you mean. Do we switch to the mixed voice, or get the high or chest to head voice? See, that's why I created that course about mixed voice. Mixed voice is not a register. You have to, in order to have a balanced transition between the registers and utilize your full range, in the passaggio, you have to start mixing at some point. Mixing it's not a good term, but it's what everyone uses, so we use it. Mixing only means you are kind of mixing the approach that you take when you sing chest voice and the approach that you take when you take that you use when you use head voice. So the laryngeal tilt doesn't have to be suddenly. So I don't have to go, see, now it just flipped and jumped up there and back down. What I can do is I can have a smooth transition. Yeah. Wait, that didn't work. Yeah. It wasn't very smooth. Too high in my passaggio probably. But what you want is like, yeah. Yeah. So what happened now, I actually started that laryngeal tilt, but very smoothly. And then you can't even hear that, this right here, or this right here. I explain in the course also the difference between chest mix and head mix, which again, you could either come from chest voice and have not a lot of laryngeal tilt happening yet, or you could come from head voice with a little more laryngeal tilt. And depending on the sound you want to create, it's okay, it's permissible. I just sang Let It Go on the weekend, and so it's like, hold on just a second. It has the E flat. So it's, I don't care what they're going to say, let the storm rage on. So I can't just yell it out. And I'm not going to do it now because it's just so bad for the voice. I would like to sing Je suis Titania today still. I'm still practicing it, which is like a coloratura aria, and I can't if I'm just blowing out my voice now. You don't want to be too heavy. You also don't want to go, I don't care what they're going to say. If I'm going into full head voice, I don't, and then it's too abrupt of a change. So what do? I start connecting it more. I don't care. You can kind of feel the mix when you go, my, nay, no, nay. Or like, nay, 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 nay. Yes, if a rock star has this really raspy voice after years of singing, it could be because they pulled up chest voice too high. And then, just because someone can do it, and it can sound very impressive and amazing. But just because you can do it doesn't mean it's the healthy way to do it. It's not, you can't do this for many, many years and your voice completely be unaffected. Like I can't do it because I still want to sing my classical pieces where I do very soft, high pitches, like, I still want to do that kind of stuff. And I don't think I could if I just push my chest voice way up there. Yes, if you have a good mix, you can belt much better because you are not just blowing out your vocal cords. I don't know, ChatGPT vocal coaches. I think ChatGPT is really good and basically what ChatGPT does is it collects information from the internet. Everything that's out there, it collects it and then just repeats what it has found. So it's great probably at teaching concepts, but it's also not human. And you can also find all the tutorials in the world here on YouTube, but you still don't know if you're actually doing it the correct way and if you're actually applying it like it needs to be applied. So that's why, it's like, especially singing or anything music, it's very easy to get into really bad habits that are really hard to get rid of. Whew, okay, I'm going to wrap it up for today. I hope everyone had a good time here. Thank you for hanging out, for those of you who were here for a long time. And I will be live again in a few hours on my opera channel specifically. And today we're going to talk about the low voice. Okay, I'll see you then. Bye.